Technology is reshaping our lives. It dramatically changed the way we live, the way we learn, the way we work, and the way we communicate. Technology has tremendous potential to connect us with one another. But there are still people who remain unreached, disconnected, and deprived of digital opportunities. Tech4ED centers serve as hubs that enable skills training and job opportunities.
We have more than 4,000 registered users, and about 67% are women, and majority composed of students as our beneficiaries. And why women? Because we are gender responsive, so all our programs are aligned with the gender and development program of our province.
Na tutunan ko yung ibang skills na dapat sa ibang schools na dapat per years dapat maano mo lang dito ng mabilisan ng mga months, mga 3 months, makakuha mo lang agad tapos maka-work agad.
This program helped me by finding a job and of course gaining more confidence as well. I was able to gain knowledge about the BPOs, on how does the environment work and how am I going to interact with my future customers.
As of now, as I'm the call center agent, so I see that difference because as of now I'm earning more than I have earned before as a tricycle driver.
O labing makagagahom nga amay namon sa langit. Mahinuklugon nga laon nga tagtugas ang langit, hangin, kalayo, tubig kag duta. Tanda ining imong timawa, kabay ining pag-ampo, magadulot sa amon sang kabuhi nga himaya. Salamat sa mga bugay nga imo ginpaambit sa amon. Salamat sa kabuhi nga ginadulot mo sa amon nga himpit. Salamat sa maayo nga panahon kag ilabi na gid sang imo katutom sa amon. Bendisyone ang imo katawhan. Bendisyone ang ila mga palangabuhian. Bendisyone ang mga panggas sa amon mga talamnan. Bendisyone ang ilang paglugayawan sa iban nga kapungsuran. Kabay makalabot sila nga walay sablag sa ila pagapadulungan. Kag ilabi na gid, bendisyone ining isla sang Negros nga amon natawhan. Kinahalad namon ang ining pag-ampo para sa imo kadayawan.
Noon pa man, malaki na ang naging bahagi ng mga kababaihan sa lipunang Pilipino. Kaisa sila sa marubdob na paghahangad ng kalayaan ng ating lahi. Kabilang sila sa paglinang ng ating makulay na sining at mayamang kultura. Kasapi sila sa pagtataguyod ng mga adhikain ng kapwa mamamayan at sa pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng lipunan. Katuwang sila sa pagtuklas sa mga larangan ng agham at medisina. Kapanalig sila sa pagpapairal ng batas, karapatan at katarungan para sa lahat. Makabahagi sila sa paglilingkod sa bayan at sa pagpapanatili ng demokrasyang Pilipino. Sa paglipas ng panahon, hindi nagmaliw ang kanilang pag-ibig sa ating inang bayan. Mga kababayan, ito ang alay ng mga kababaihang Pilipino para sa bayan. Tumayo po tayong lahat at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Ayaw magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dilim mo'y buhay. Lumang hiniram, dulot ka ng magiging, sa manlulupi, di ka masisingil. Sa lahat ng tulog, sa singil at sa lalim mong babang, maging ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang isang ng watawat mo'y talumpay na nabihigin. Tuwing at araw na kailan pa maliwanag. Lumalang araw ng 100% buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Ang higaya ng pagpay makahamit, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Good afternoon and welcome to Negros Occidental Language and Information Technology Center Webinar Series. Hello there once again. My name is Red and I am your virtual host for today. We at NOLITC are truly delighted to have you all joining us since the start of our series of webinars. It really warms our heart that you took time off your busy schedules to join us today. This webinar is a pioneering project of NOLITC Tech4ED Center. We are recognized nationally as Outstanding Tech4ED Center by the Department of Information and Communications Technology. We are also 2-star awardee in Contact Center Services and C2 program by TESDA. And in 2020, PhilSecNet awarded the center the Pandemic Resilience Award for Support for Teachers and Students category. The Negros Occidental Language and Information Technology Center is the first and only government-run information and language center in Western Visayas. NOLITC also offers free online training under the Negros Occidental Training for Work Scholarship Program through the Office of the Governor, Governor Eugenio Sebong Lacson, under his 7-point priority agenda, Avance Negrense. Recently, the center has pivoted to online training and conducted various in-demand webinars. This is our urgent and most accessible response to the ongoing global pandemic. To join, all you need to do is register once and you will be given the access to the entire webinars. You need to sign up your attendance at the start of this webinar and it will be open for an hour or two. So kindly do your attendance right now. Please scan the QR code flash on your screen or click the link at the description bar. All right. I hope that you are all doing your online attendance at this moment. We also would like to encourage you to participate in our online open forum. You will be given the access to the online open forum form. Just post your questions to the link, all right, provided in the description bar, or kindly scan the QR code flashed on your screen. So that is how you can participate in our online open forum. We will also provide digital certificates to those who have successfully completed the online attendance and the online evaluation, which will be open only until 6 o'clock this evening. So please do not forget that. If you are watching through Facebook live stream, please follow our page, give our page a thumbs up, and if you are streaming through YouTube, hit that subscribe button right now. You may also share the link to your colleagues, friends, and peers, and let us all together learn. To kick off today's webinar, let us have the leader who has a vision and knows how to turn her ideas into real life success stories. Our vocational school administrator and NOLITC Tech4ED Center, ladies and gentlemen, let us have Dr. Maria Cristina Orbicido.
Thank you, Red. Good afternoon to all our participants streaming live via Facebook and NOLITC YouTube channel. I am very glad to welcome you in this webinar. This is another innovative project of NOLITC Tech4ED Center. This COVID-19 project is brought to you by the Office of Governor Bong Lacson under the Gender and Development Program. In the previous session, you learned about Advanced Microsoft Word. This time around, you will learn about Advanced Microsoft Excel. Learning Excel is really exciting. I love learning Excel. And this is also beneficial, not only to students and teachers, but also to admin staff and even to all employees. Why learn Excel? Well, you can increase your value if you learn Excel, especially the tools, the complex tools, and you can increase your efficiency, particularly your work output. In this webinar, I'm sure you will sharpen your skill set. And I believe that after this training, you will learn how to visualize, manipulate, and evaluate data. You can create equations. That's very complex, but I'm sure Philip will tell us more about this on how to do it in a more creative way and a more easier way, not too technical. And of course, you can create easy to read and analyze set of data. You can also design spreadsheets with this training, and you can organize and read and comprehend and interpret data. Why are these things important? Because this will help your organization. This will help teachers. This will also help students. So when you have your data sets, you can maintain, organize, and even balance your data so that you can create projections. And you can even do financial and supplies inventory. So it's really exciting learning Excel, particularly the advanced one. So I hope that during this webinar, you will enjoy learning, listen attentively to our speaker, and don't forget to ask questions. The more you ask questions, the more you will learn. And of course, if you didn't get all the answers, you can review these sessions because this is for free. You can go back to our live streaming anytime you want it, anywhere. And of course, this is for free, so you can enjoy as much as you can. So again, welcome to this webinar. NOLITC Cares, NOLITC Inspires, Avance, Negrense.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tina Arbisido, for that very motivational welcome message. NOLITC is not where it is right now without the unwavering support of our provincial government, headed by our Governor Eugenio Jose Bong Lacson. To give us a message on his behalf, let us have the Provincial Gender and Development Focal Point System Action Officer, Ms. Marijun P. Castro.
Pleasant greetings, everyone. On behalf of the Provincial Gender and Development Focal Point System, headed by our Governor Eugenio Jose Bong Lacson, I would like to extend our congratulations to all the participants of this webinar organized by the Negros Occidental Language, Information and Technology Center, headed by our innovative school administrator, Dr. Maria Cristina Orbicido, and supported by her dedicated staff. With the increasing cases of COVID-19 in the province and other parts of the country and the world, you, learning at the comforts of your home or wherever you are where you have stable internet connection, is by far the safest way of acquiring knowledge and skills which you can use for future employment or your eventual business in the future. As the action officer of the Provincial GAD Focal Point System, I am happy to note that our GAD budget is put to good use and is helping women, youth, and the marginalized sector in maximizing their potentials and in contributing to the economic development of their family. Also, NOLITC is helping to change gender relations and improve the status of women in our society. Congratulations to NOLITC and to all the participants for signing up in this course. I hope that you will complete the module, submit the requirements and evaluation so that you will be able to receive your certificates. Malipayon nga adlaw sa inyo tanan, and Abance Negrense.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Castro, the Provincial GAD Focal Point System Action Officer. Before we proceed with the most awaited part, let me first acknowledge our active partners and our online participants joining us in this webinar. We would like to say good afternoon to Vincent, who is watching us live today. We have Clint Bajan, Jericho Guazon, Alina Octobre, Jenna D. Liefde. Good afternoon. This is Grace Love Tidalgo from SDSSU. Thank you for joining us. We also have Floor Jason J. Katao, also from SDSSU. All right. I hope you could tell us which province is that. We also have Nori Estilo, Roland Algara, and we have Mary or Maria Hani Shangri-La Bartazan, one of our contact center services trainee. And also good afternoon to Maricar Alquiza and to all of you who are joining us virtually this afternoon. Again, thank you for joining us. Without spoiling you any further, let us get into the main agenda of today. Our speaker is a young technical nomad, yes, a person you can easily call if your computer is acting crazy or you don't have any idea how to fix your IP address. Yes, he can help you with that. He will come to you in thunderbolt speed with smiling face. Who wouldn't want to have an IT guy like that? His forte are, but not limited to, setting up new computer systems and installing, maintaining, and troubleshooting the software. He knows it all. He must have been a walking Google. That's right. He has an international award in robotics competition under his sleeve. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so proud, and it is such an honor to present to you our resource speaker this afternoon. Let us have Mr. Jan Philip Bautista.
Good afternoon, Miss Red.
Good
Can you hear me?
afternoon to
Yes, Miss
you,
Red.
Sir Philip.
Yes, Miss.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Also,
This is again another exciting afternoon for the NOLITC Tech4ED Center as we bring to our audience another interesting and informative webinar. So, what can you give us a little idea what this webinar is going to be?
for the topic of my webinar, actually, it's Microsoft Excel VLOOKUP.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
most of the functions of VLOOKUP is for teachers and other
Mm-hmm.
organization in which it could
Mm-hmm.
help them on their productivity, so that
Mm-hmm.
it would be easy for them to find
Mm-hmm.
something in their process.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exciting. So this
Yes,
is
Miss.
going to be for students, and only for students, but also for professionals.
Yes, Miss.
Right. And I guess, yeah, without a doubt, we will be able to learn a lot from this. So, Sir Philip, the virtual floor is yours. You may take it away.
Yes. So again, good afternoon, everyone. This topic will be about Microsoft Excel and specifically for VLOOKUP functions, and um, uh, 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 we could create formulas in VLOOKUP. So first things first. So what is VLOOKUP? So it's a Excel function to look up data in a table. It is also organized vertically. So lookup supports approximate and exact matching, and for also wildcards. So when we say wildcards, so it could project results in which it could not be it is not matched when you declare an argument. So for partial matches. So lookup values must appear in the first column of the table passed in to a VLOOKUP. So when we say VLOOKUP, it has no compatibility issues with other versions of Microsoft Excel, which means that you could use these VLOOKUP functions if you have older versions of Microsoft Excel. So also VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup. So it is a function that makes Excel search for a certain value in a column, and that's so-called table array. And then in order to return a value from a different column in the same row. So the purpose of this VLOOKUP is to look up a value in a table by matching it on the first column. So secondly, to return a value. So when we create a VLOOKUP argument, so which it means that you must have a return value and then match the value from a table. So if you want to return a value, it must match the value from the table that you are creating on your Excel file on your VLOOKUP. The last one is syntax. So that syntax is probably is the formula that you are creating. So here is the syntax for VLOOKUP. So first, you must key in VLOOKUP, open parentheses. First, you must look up a value in a table. So the next one is the column index, and then the lastly is the range lookup. So later on, I will explain the syntax to you, in which I will show you my Microsoft Excel activities in which we will use the VLOOKUP functions. So for the argument, so the value is to look for on the first column of the table. So the table is from which to retrieve a value. So later on, I will show you these things so that it would be clear, and we have a precise activity in which we could describe these functions. So the next one is the column index. So the column in the table from which to retrieve a value. So lastly, range lookup. So when we say true, it means that approximate match, and then false, so exact match. So if you could see here, it's a opposite of true or false. So because when we say false, it means exact match. So when we say true, so it's an approximate match. So you could see there on the graphical representation, the argument or the syntax equals VLOOKUP. So B12 is the value, and A2 to C10 is the table. So 3 is the column index or the column in the table from which to retrieve a value, and then 0 for the range lookup. So when I key in 0, it means exact match. Or you could probably put there equals VLOOKUP, open parenthesis, B12, semicolon, A2, colon, C10, semicolon, 3, semicolon, and then you could key in there in the 0 here. You could key in there false or true. But for default, you could also use 0. So 0 means exact match. So also, V is for vertical. So the purpose of VLOOKUP is to get information from a table. So it is organized like this. So using the order number in column B as a value, VLOOKUP can get the customer ID, amount, name, and state for any order. For example, to get the name and to get the customer name for an order. So which means if you could see the data here, you could use the order number in column B. So you could see here, column B. You could use these order numbers to look up the value of this data. So if we could use this 1001 value, we could find this data like customer ID, we could find the amount, we could find the name, and we could find the state. So in this example, the order number is used to get those data or to get those data that they want to retrieve by using only the first column on the Microsoft Excel. So which means we could use all of this data to get this remaining data on our VLOOKUP using our VLOOKUP functions. So VLOOKUP is based on column numbers. So when you use VLOOKUP, imagine that every column in the table is numbered, starting from the left. To get a value from a particular column, provide the appropriate number as the column index. For example, the column index to retrieve first below is number 2. So right here. So if you could see on this vertical lookup, so the last name and email can be retrieved with columns 3 and 4. So if you could see here, the column, the data in which the Excel datas are numbered with column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. So when you declare a formula here, so if you could see the other side of the VLOOKUP functions, you could see that the first name is with column 2, and then the last name is with column 3, and then the email is numbered as also as column 4. So if you could see the formula, that's VLOOKUP H3. So here is the H3 in which you could key in the ID number. And then it declares the rows in which you will find the answer to your lookup. So from B4, so this is the B4 to E13. So which means from 6 if you entered 622 on your ID number, it will find the data from B4 to E13. And then it will insert the data on the number 2 column also. And then if we say false, so that's the exact match of the data. So which means if I've entered here 622, so the data that will be produced on this first name or in the first name is Jonathan. It's because That's the exact value of the first name on this ID number, which is 622. So later on, we will try those VLOOKUP functions or VLOOKUP syntax so that it would be clear for us to understand. So here, exact match. So in most cases, you'll probably want to use VLOOKUP in exact match mode. So this makes sense when you have a unique key to use as a lookup value. For example, the movie title in this data. So if you could see here, the movie title is Toy Story. So the year is declared as 1995, and then it is ranked number 2, and then the total sales is 362. If you could see the formula, it's equals VLOOKUP H4. So H4 is located here, in which you will key in the name of the movie. And then B5, that's the data in which, that's the range of data that you will find the answer to your VLOOKUP. So that's B5 to E number 9. And then you will put this VLOOKUP function onto the number 2 column, row, in which it will produce 1995. So if you could see, that's number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, and this is number 4. So in your argument that you want here in the year, so you will use the number 2 column. So I will go back to, so if you could see here, there's number 1, there's number 2, there's number 3, that's number 4, in which it will coincide with the data that you want. So right here in the year, it's in column number 2. And then for the rank, and then for the sales. So we have also VLOOKUP first match. In the case of duplicate values, VLOOKUP will find the first match when the match mode is exact. So in the screen below, VLOOKUP is configured to find the price of the color green. So there are 3 entries with the color green, and VLOOKUP returns the price for the first entry, which is $17. So the formula is in cell F5. So if you could see here in our graphical representation, there are 3 colors of green. But when we say VLOOKUP first match, so it will match the color green with the first result, which is 17. So if you could see here the formula, that's VLOOKUP E5. So here, E number 5, and then it will select all the data from B number 5 to letter C11. So it will find the data to the second column, which is the price. So the thing here is we have 3 green entries, or we have multiple entries of green. But in this first match VLOOKUP, it will display the first value of green, or the first price of the green color, so which is $17. So that's VLOOKUP first match. So the next one is we have VLOOKUP wildcard match. So the VLOOKUP function supports wildcards, so which it makes possible to perform a partial lookup on a value. When we say partial lookup, so example, we have this value, and then we want to find another value by entering a partial lookup. So for if we want to find a number, so we could find there a partial lookup of the number. So it means it is not complete, or the data that we want to look is not complete, but the VLOOKUP function for wildcard, so it will find matches for that incomplete data. So for instance, you can use VLOOKUP to retrieve values from a table after typing in only a part or a partial of a lookup value. So to use wildcard with VLOOKUPs, you must specify exact match mode by providing false or 0 for the last argument range lookup. So so let's see here in our example. So if you could see there, for the VLOOKUP with wildcard, the name if you will find AYA, so it will display on the first name, Michael Ayala, and then the ID number, and then the department. But if you could see here that we use a partial data of the input that we want to find. So we just key in AYA. But for VLOOKUP, the first argument that it will find for AYA is Ayala, and then Michael, and then ID number 263, and then for the department. So that's the function of VLOOKUP for wildcard, or VLOOKUP with wildcard function. So we have here the two-way lookup. So inside the VLOOKUP function, the column index argument is normally hard-coded as a static number. However, you can also create a dynamic column index by using the match function to locate the right column. So this technique allows us to create a dynamic two-way lookup, matching on both rows and columns in screen below. So VLOOKUP is configured to perform a lookup based on the name and month. So the formula in H6 is, so if you could see there, the VLOOKUP, the V two-way lookup. So it means that the first argument here is equals VLOOKUP H4. So you will find the range value from B5 to E13. And then you will match that to H5, which is here. And then you will find the value on B4 to letter E number 4, in which you will find the month and then the sales. So that's a two-way lookup. You will find the month and then the sales, in which it will display the function on column number 3. It will match in column number 3. So that's the other function of VLOOKUP that is probably very useful, the two-way lookup. So here, the range lookup controls whether value needs to match exactly or not. So the default is true, so it allows non-exact match. So when we put there the range lookup true, so it will allow non-exact match. So set range lookup to false to require an exact match, and true to allow non-exact match. So it's confusing that if you put into your range lookup false, so it requires an exact match. But if you put true, so it allows a non-exact match. And if range lookup is true, that's the default setting, a non-exact match will cause the VLOOKUP function to match the nearest value in the table that is still less than the value. So it means that it will match the data to an non-exact match, but it is still less than the value of what we're finding. So we're going to the next slide. So that ends my presentation. So I will again share my screen. So just wait for a while. So right here, if you could see my screen. So the first activity that we are going to discuss is the vertical, or the VLOOKUP vertical. So we have here the order number, we have here the customer ID, we have here the amount, we have here the name, and we have here the address. So what we're going to perform is the VLOOKUP vertical. So first, we have to adjust the data in which it would be very organized. So what we're going to do is to align this one on left. So I think most of you know how to operate Microsoft Excel, so it will be not difficult for you to for the formatting, for the font style, for the font size, and to adjust the options of Microsoft Excel. So right here, we have order number, we have customer ID, we have the amount, we have the name, we have the address. So we are going to format all of this data so that it would be easy for us to see the things that we want. So for the amount, we need to configure the amount on this side for as for the currency would be Philippine peso. So for example, if we've entered 100, it will automatically convert this one into Philippine peso. So to do that, you need to press this numbers format and then select currency. And after currency, more number format, and then you need to select currency here and then change the symbol to PHP or Philippine peso. So you should select PHP here and then select this one, and you will change the default value of, the default currency to Philippine peso. So if you could see here, we have the column order number, customer ID number, the amount, the name, and then the address. So the purpose of this VLOOKUP vertical is to get the data that we want by using only the first column. So what we are going to use here is the order number. So if you could see on my example, it's only 5 examples. But what if the data here is more than 5? So it would be difficult for you to find the data if your Excel file is too crowded. So if we could see here, the data that I have is already on 124. So what if it goes down? So into 220. So it would be difficult for me to find the data in which to find a data in which I want to know. So for example, I want to know the name of the order number 101, or the address of the order number 101, or the amount of order 103, or the customer ID of order 149. So it would be difficult for me to find those data if I don't use VLOOKUP. But with VLOOKUP, it's very easy for us to find those data by using this syntax. So if you could see here, I've already encoded the formula for the VLOOKUP syntax. So I've used the order number 105. So I've choose A1 to E7. So from A1 to E7, so that's the range of data that I want to know. So those are the data that my VLOOKUP will find. So that's the column in which the table, in which I would retrieve the value for that table. So from A1 to E7. And then I want to know the address of order number 105. So right here, if you see, I want to, the column number, that's 1, that's number 2, that's number 3, that's number 4. That's number 4, that's number 5. So that's the column index in which I want to retrieve the value in column number 5. So I want to retrieve the value of order number 105, and the value that I want to retrieve is the address in column number 5, which is Silay. So if I want to erase this one, so you need to identify the column number for each argument. So for example, I want to use the VLOOKUP for order 101. So if I change my formula to 101 or order 101, so I want to retrieve the value of the address for order 101, which is Bacolod City. And then when I press enter, it will automatically find Bacolod City. So as I've said earlier, so this is very beneficial if you have unlimited data or substantial amount of data that you have here in your argument or in your Excel file. So if you have many datas in your Excel file, so it would be easy for you to find the order or the data that you want to retrieve. So right here, I am just using the order number. So what if I use the customer number? So let's see if that one. So this argument is, this syntax is not applicable because in VLOOKUP, the first column, in VLOOKUP vertical, the first column is the ones that we are using for the value. We change this as 101. So what if we want to get the value of the name of order 101? So what we're going to do is to replace this one with column number 4. So it will display the name of the order 101. So the name of the person for the order 101. So if you want to get the amount, so we are going to change the column index or the column table. So we're going to change this one into 3. So that's 150 pesos. So that's how to use the VLOOKUP vertical. So if you want to put your result in other columns, so you need to press this one and paste this one. So if we want to look the value for 105, so the price for 105 is 550. So if we change this to order 103, so the value here is 100 for 103. But if one is first name, then if you want to add the last name, so which means that your column index number has been added. So if you could see, the column index number is 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, and then 4, 5, 6. So you could use a 6-column index number in which you could retrieve data from your VLOOKUP. So that's how to use the vertical lookup. So next is we are going to discuss VLOOKUP based on column numbers. So we are going to switch to the next sheet of our Excel file. So when we say VLOOKUP based on the column numbers, it's basically you want to retrieve the data based also in its column numbers. So on our first VLOOKUP activity here in our VLOOKUP vertical, we just retrieve one value for our column numbers. But if we want to retrieve this many values based on our column numbers, so this would be the VLOOKUP function that we are going to use. This VLOOKUP based on our column numbers. So again, we are going to format our data here. So if you could see on our VLOOKUP based on column numbers, so the data that we want to use is for the first column, which is the ID number. So if we display if we key in the ID number on this side, so it will retrieve the data for the first name of ID number 611, which is John, and then it will retrieve the ID number for the last name for ID number 611, which is Doe, and then it will retrieve the email address for ID 611, which is johndoe@gmail.com. But first, we need to understand the syntax for our VLOOKUP with based on column numbers. So if you could see on the formula bar, that's VLOOKUP H3. So the H3 stands for the lookup in which we are going to retrieve the data. So first, we are going to key in H3. And then we are going to declare the table in which we are going to retrieve the value, which is A4, here A4 to D number 10. So that's A4 and then D number 10. And then the column index that we want to retrieve a value. So the column index here is 2. So that's the first name. So the column index, we're going to label the column index as ID number. This one is for the ID number. This one is for column index for the first name, the column index for the last name, and then the column index for the email address. So if you could see here, the column index for 2, that's the first name. So, and then for the range lookup, we've key in false for exact match. So if we want to look up the last name of this data, what we're going to do is to just follow this formula. So for our last name, it's the display output here is NA because so let's see what's wrong with our VLOOKUP formula. So H3 and then B4. Okay, that would be A4. So if you could see on the formula for the last name function, so you could see here VLOOKUP, and then we're going to key in the H3, which is the ID number, and then we are going to set the values in which we are going to get the value itself from A4 to D number 10, and what we're going to retrieve is the last name. So basically, the last name is in the column number 3. So and then for the false argument, so it will display the exact match of our VLOOKUP or our range lookup function. So which is the CILIO. So if I key in here 611, it will display John Doe. If I key in here 766, it will display Louis Medina. So if I key in here 544, it will display Jason Statham. So for our email address, we need to create the same VLOOKUP formula for those for the first function, like for example, first name, and then the last name, and then the email address. So for the email address, what we need to do is to state the VLOOKUP again. So open parentheses, H3, and then comma. So what we need here is the range value. And then for the column index, that's number 4. And then for the range lookup, that's false. So again, it's H3, A4 to D10. Okay, so if you hear 312, what's wrong with our VLOOKUP function? Mhm. So there's a problem with our email address for our VLOOKUP function. So I'll check what's wrong with this one for the email address. Okay, so I will go back to this problem later on in which I will solve this VLOOKUP function for the email address. So this one is for the VLOOKUP based on our column numbers. So I think the problem with this one is H3. So right now it's already fixed. So if I key in 714, so it will display the first name, the last name, and their email address. So this one, it retrieves the data for our first name, for our last name, and for our email addresses. So it displays multiple datas for the things that we want to retrieve, for the first name, ID number, last name, email address. So again, this function is very beneficial if you have set of numbers of, multiple amount of data. For example, if you have here ID number up to this one. So if you will just key in the ID number here, so if we will just key in the ID number here, you could retrieve those data without consuming much time. So that's one of the functions of our VLOOKUP based on our column number. So we're going to proceed with our third activity for our VLOOKUP first match. So for our VLOOKUP first match, if you could see here, we have the item and then we have the price for our computer products. So I've labeled my my data as item and then the price. So if you have a store or a grocery store or a computer store or any store that just distributes goods or services, you could use this VLOOKUP first match. So when we say VLOOKUP first match, it retrieves the data on which in which your syntax would find the first match of the data itself. So, for example, let's wait for a while. So this VLOOKUP first match is very useful if you have a duplicate values. So the VLOOKUP function will find the first match when the match mode is exact. So it is configured to find the price for the first item that it will find. So right here, this is the formula for my VLOOKUP functions. So the data or the cell in which I want to put the item is here, in which it is located as F3. And then the VLOOKUP syntax here, if you look my VLOOKUP syntax is VLOOKUP F3, and then I will find the data from B number 3 to C number 9. So it match the range value in which the data I want to retrieve. And then for the price, that's column number 2. So again, I will insert a invisible. This is column 1 again. This is column 2. So if I want to key in motherboard, so the VLOOKUP function displays the price for the motherboard, which is 7,000 pesos. So if I want to look up for mouse, so the price for the mouse is 500 pesos. If I want to look up for keyboard, the price for the keyboard is 7,000. So what if I add other datas here? Like for example, power supply unit. And then RAM, then hard drive, or storage, words. So for the storage, I will be in here 1, 2. For the ports, it's 150 pesos. And then for the RAM, I would up to 3,000. And for the power supply, I would go as high as 5,000. So you could see I have added several entries to my range lookup. So if I key in here RAM, it will not display the price of the RAM. If I key in here for the storage device, it will not display the price for the storage device. It's because in my syntax for my VLOOKUP, I have not declared the additional rows and columns for the additional item for the computer store. So right here, you should change the range from C10 into C14 so that it would display the added data on your Excel file. So if you could see, it will automatically update the storage price, which is 1,200, because for my range, I've declared this additional numbers or additional data on my VLOOKUP formula or VLOOKUP syntax. So this VLOOKUP first match is for duplicate values. So what if I've key in here chords 200, so which means there are duplicate data for chords. So this one is for power chord, this one is for VGA chord. So what if there's a duplicate data for the chords? So if I key in chords, so it will look up for the first data or for the first match of the data in my Excel file. So this function is for the VLOOKUP first match. So it's called first match because it will look for the VLOOKUP, or it will retrieve the data for the first match of your what do you call that? The first match of the data that you want to retrieve. So what if I change my data here into 300? So if you could see on the Excel file, the price for the first chord is 150, and then the price here is 150 for my VLOOKUP syntax. So if I change this one into 300, it will automatically adjust the price to 300 because my VLOOKUP syntax is it will retrieve the first match for the price of chords. So this one is very beneficial for grocery stores, in which you could automatically retrieve price, or you could automatically retrieve data from your goods or products. So you could add as many as you want. You could add as many columns as you have. So the VLOOKUP function will just find all of those data. So if we could add another column, like for example brand. So for the motherboard, pesos; for the keyboard, A for tech; and for the keyboard, for the mouse, A for tech; and then for the keyboard, it's Dell; for the processor, it's Intel; and for the printer, it's Epson. Scanner is, for example, Brother's brand. For the webcam, Logitech. For the power supply, generic brand. For the RAM, that's Kingston. For the storage, Ramstar or Seagate. So this one we could add. For the port, this, for example, power cord, and then VGA cable or VGA cord. So you could add another table in which you will retrieve the data. For example, brand here. So as the same, you could check for the brand of the, you could add a column for brand of your items. So for mouse, it will automatically display for the brand as A for tech, or for your keyboard, it will automatically display the brand for Dell, as long as your syntax for your VLOOKUP is correct. So if it's wrong, so it would be difficult for you to look up for that function on your VLOOKUP. So that's G4. So we will going to change this one as F4. So the argument would be correct. And then to the column number 3. So let's see. F4. So we're going to change this one as to G4. So for the formula for the brand, that's G4, and the range value for your VLOOKUP is in C4 to D14. And then it will find the value on number 2 column, and then it will display the brand Dell for exact match. So this VLOOKUP function is for the VLOOKUP first match. So later on, if you have other questions, we can discuss for this VLOOKUP first match. And then for our next activity, we have here the VLOOKUP wildcard match. So for the, when we say wildcard match, just going to zoom the data. So when we say for the wildcard function, it supports wildcard. So which means it makes it possible to perform a partial match on a lookup value. So if you could see on my Excel file, I just key in letter A. So it displays the last name Armigos. It displays the first name Meg. But for my value, I've just key in here a partial match on my lookup, which is letter A. For instance, you can use VLOOKUP to retrieve values from a table after typing in only a part or a part of a lookup value. So to use this, you must specify the exact match mode by providing false or 0 on your last argument. So here, I provided false on my last argument, or we could replace this one as 0. So 0, it also means as false or false as 0. So for this example, I will only just use false. So this, for example, this would be the data for your VLOOKUP wildcard match. So if you could see here, I have here last name, we have here ID number, we have also here, last name, and we have also here first name, we have also ID number, we have also department. So if I find only letter D, for the exact match of my letter D, it's Tam Dasilio. So if you could see in my values, there's no other D here than Dasilio, or Tam, first name Tam and then the last name Dasilio. But if the VLOOKUP finds another DA here, for example, Dasilio, um, name, and then the ID number, it's 810, and then the is HR again. So it's not included in my set of values here. So what if I change the set of values into E number 10? So let's see what happens. So you could see here that it will just display the first exact match, which is Tam Dasilio. So what if I key in the complete name? So it will also displays the first argument or the first exact match, which is Tam Dasilio. So to find the argument or the syntax for this, so what we're going to use is this syntax. So if you could see here in the formula bar, the syntax for this one is equals VLOOKUP and then $sign I3. So I3. So and then we need to input here, what do you call this? What do you call this one? This function in your Excel, and then asterisk, and then this one, and then you need to key in comma. So the $sign again. So this is the set of range of values, which is B, this one B, and then to 4. So B4 to E number 10, and then the column or the column number for the first name is what this one. Wait for a while. So if you could see here, this one is invisible. That's what we call the column number. So in our syntax, this one is for the column number, and this one is for the range lookup, which is false. So the lookup value, so the table array, the column index number, and for the range lookup. So if I key in here L, so it will display John Laurilia. So if you want to add another data for the ID, you must create a syntax for the ID number. So you just need to follow this one. So the formula for this one is VLOOKUP, open close parentheses. So again, you need to go to the range, the table array, which represents $sign. I mean, VLOOKUP I3. I3, and then and dollar sign range value from B4 B4 to E10, and then for the ID number, that's column number 3, and then for the range lookup, that's range lookup, that's false. So let's see if the formula is correct. So if you could see right here, our formula is correct. It displays ID number ZIG01 for John Laurilla. So for example, I want to choose another one. For a partial lookup, I want to select M. So let's see. So that's for Louis John Medina. So if you could see here, there's a letter M for Medina, and then there's letter M for Mungkal. So if you want to find the values for the name last name Mungkal, so you need to add another partial value, which is letter O. So it will the VLOOKUP function will find those values for the last name MO. So for the last name ME, it will find Medina. So for the MO, it will find Mungkal. So that's the purpose of wildcard match. So you need to input partial data of your, partial match on your lookup value. So here for my partial match, I've keyed in MO. So for the value that I want to find, it's Lilith Mungkal, and then the ID number is 809. So if I want to add another value for my department, so it would be I want also to create another formula for this one. So in which I will just follow again this formula, but with a different column number and with a different range number. So I will just key in the formula for this one, and then I will just change the column number for my department. So I will change this one as 4, and then I will press enter. So my VLOOKUP function is now complete. So if I want to choose again Bautista or letter B, so if you could see here the exact match of my name, Bautista, for the first name, Philip, for the last name, that's Bautista, for the ID number, that's 603 for the department, it's technical. But I only input the partial match for my last name. So again, if I want to input another one, so for example, AR. So that's for Meg Armigos. So that's Meg Armigos, ID number 804, and department, that's HR. So that's for VLOOKUP wildcard matches. So that's the other functions for our VLOOKUP. So this one is very beneficial also for those datas in which you want to key in, like for example in your office, in your department. So this one is useful if you have many employees with different functions, like different datas from each employee. So last name, first name, ID number. So you could enter here age, you could enter here mobile number. So if you want to find those data, you could use this VLOOKUP syntax or argument. So this argument will display all of the data of each person by using only partial information from their data. Like for example, partial, when we say A, so that's for Armigos. So when we say B, that's for Bautista. When we say partial, B for Dacilio. So ME, partial for Medina. So for M, it's also Medina, but for MO, that's for Mungkal. So this one is very useful for us um, if we apply this to our offices or our departments or our work. So we have here for our last VLOOKUP function. This one is for errors. So for example, I haven't discussed for errors. So if I've entered here the data, I've entered here the set of data. So what if I key in an error data, like for example, letter S. So you could see here for our first name, that's an available, that's an A, that's an A, that's an A. So for my first match also, I've entered correct data. What if you've entered a different data, like for example, UPS. So the result for your VLOOKUP function will be an A, or it could not find a VLOOKUP match. So if you use this, if you use VLOOKUP, you will inevitably run into the error. So when we say NA or number sign NA error, it just means that your data cannot be found. So for example, if you want to look for something and that data could not be found, so the result for your excuse me, the result for your VLOOKUP is not available. But there's a way to find out or to correct this error. So we will create a syntax in which it will not return NA. So it will return to something that's you would know that that data is not available. So this one is for VLOOKUP errors. So here in my argument or in my syntax, I've included this if in my formula bar. If NA or if it's not available, it will display the not found word. So if I display here another movie, for example, uh, what movie is so. So it's not found. So if I display here Titanic, so it displays for the year 1996. So if I add another argument on, another data on Titanic, so it will display not found. So in my previous activities, it just display NA. So here it displays not found. So it means that your data or your set, the data that you want to retrieve is not available. So it means this syntax would create an argument in which it will say that your data is not found, or you could change this one. So not available or no data retrieved. So this syntax will show you if your data is not retrieved. So you will just create add this one, and then you will add this no data retrieved. So let's see if that function is applied to the previous activities. So right here, so let's see if let's see if this one would mhm. So it's applicable to all of our activity. So if there's no data retrieve, it means that our syntax will display. If there's no data that's matches our set of data, so it will just display no data retrieve, or your argument could be changed. So you could change here no data. So that's so, but if you change this one as the A, so it will display again. It will go back to its original, or to the correct or the exact match of your syntax. But if you place a incorrect syntax or incorrect VLOOKUP, so it will just uh, display no data. Same as this. So you need to add this one, the if NA, and then the argument that you want to see or you want to display if there's no available data for that syntax or for that function. So here, you will just add so let's see. For the rank, it's column number 3. So if we change this one to Titanic, or if any derivative false, J number 5. So J number 5 is here. So J number 4. So let's change this one to J number 4. And then C5. C5 to F9. So C5 to F9, that's C4. So we're going to correct our formula. So if you could see, in my formula, the year is displayed, the rank is displayed, and only the sales is not displayed. So if you want to key in the sales, so we're going to change again J4, and then we are going to key in here C4. So, and then we're going to change again the column number, which is number 4. So you could see there that the year, the rank, the sales, and the movie is displayed. So again, this VLOOKUP activity is for errors. So to correct those errors, you need to add to your syntax the if and a, and then the argument that you want to display on your VLOOKUP. So I guess that's it for my presentation for my VLOOKUP. Miss Sally. So thank you everyone again for listening to my PowerPoint presentation. I'm Miss Red. Miss Red, afternoon. So if you have other questions for VLOOKUP, we could try to demonstrate if we could answer your questions. And there are other techniques for VLOOKUP. So if you could see there, that on the internet there are many arguments or syntax that you want to create on your VLOOKUP functions. So you could search there VLOOKUP formulas, and you could search there for VLOOKUP videos. There are many tutorials for VLOOKUP. So what I've discussed is the most common. So there are other techniques also. So you could use other techniques or other arguments or other syntax. And then for the syntax, there are many techniques also. You could add to your syntax different kinds of argument. So what I've discussed to you is a grasp of the syntax. So if you understand the syntax for your VLOOKUP, you could probably, or you will probably get the value that you've always desired for your VLOOKUP. So others, for the teachers, for organizations, they have numerous amount of data. So they could use those VLOOKUP functions to get or retrieve data. So for example, in a company, so there are datas for the employees which has resigned. So for example, if those employees are not present anymore, so but their data could be retrieved using these VLOOKUP functions. So that's all for my presentation. So um, we could proceed to the open forum. Ms. Red, thank you.
Yes, Sir Philip. Wow, that is such a very informative discussion about VLOOKUP. There are a lot of functions in Excel that we can actually utilize, no? So, Sir Philip, we are now in our open forum session. Are you ready to entertain questions from our online participants?
Yes, Ms. Red. So
Yeah.
thank you.
So, all right, and we will have the first question for this segment. By the way, we would like to encourage our viewers. If you have any clarifications or questions, kindly post your questions through our online open forum form. The link you can find in our description bar. Okay, for the first question, this is from Miss Jen of Talisay City. Why is it necessary to use VLOOKUP? In what way it may help?
So on the first question, that why is it
Mm-hmm.
necessary to use VLOOKUP? So
Mm-hmm.
it is a function in which your data in a table will be organized,
Uh-huh.
and in what way it may help. So if you
Mm-hmm.
have a numerous amount of data on your organization, or for example for teachers, they have numerous amount
Mm-hmm.
of data. So it would be a great help for those teachers to find a specific value or a
Mm-hmm.
specific data using these VLOOKUP functions.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
because other organizations, they have
Mm-hmm.
that numerous amount of data in which they are using for the previous years, for the past few
Mm-hmm.
years. So if you are using VLOOKUP, it would be easy for them to locate or to retrieve those datas.
Mm-hmm. Right. So a lot of these professionals, you also talked about earlier, you have set examples for business, right?
Yes,
So
miss.
a lot of us are using Excel, but actually we don't know how to maximize the use of the tools that can be found in Microsoft Excel. So VLOOKUP is one way to organize and to look data efficiently, right, Sir Philip?
Yes, miss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we are so glad that at least now VLOOKUP is no longer a strange or an alien concept to us because you taught us how to use VLOOKUP. Thank you for that answer. I hope that is clear for our audience from Talisay City. Now we go to our second question posted through our open forum form. We have here, is VLOOKUP also available in Google Sheet? That's a really good question.
For the function of VLOOKUP, so there's a function in the Google Sheets in which you could also use the VLOOKUP
Mm-hmm.
syntax, and also for Office 365, you could also use the VLOOKUP.
Mm-hmm.
So it is available in Google
Oh.
Sheets.
And also using the same command, Sir Philip.
Yes, with the
Very.
same command and with the same syntax for using
Mm-hmm.
in an offline Microsoft Office application. So you could use also VLOOKUP on online platform of
Mm-hmm.
Google Spreadsheets.
Mm-mm. So we have the Microsoft 360, Google Sheet, and our Microsoft
Office.
software
Yes,
Office. Yeah.
miss.
That is amazing. Thank you, Sir Philip. And we go to our number 3 question. Is VLOOKUP value okay sensitive? I was actually trying it earlier.
So if you could see on my last activity on the VLOOKUP for
Mm-hmm.
errors. So for the movie Titanic, for the case of the data there, I've
Mm-hmm.
entered capital letter T. But for my
Mm-hmm.
argument, I just use a small letter T. So
Mm-hmm.
it can display the data that we want to retrieve, which means that um, the case sensitivity of VLOOKUP is not that strict. So you could
Sensitive.
use
Okay.
small caps or
Mm-hmm.
a bigger caps for the VLOOKUP function.
Mm-hmm. I see. So yeah, right. I was looking at you earlier, and there are some that is in lowercase. You type some in uppercase, and it doesn't really matter. The
Yes, miss.
command or the output is still the same.
Yes, miss. As long
Mm-hmm.
as you create the
Mm-hmm.
correct syntax, so
Mm-hmm.
case sensitivity is not required here.
Mm-hmm.
But
Correct. And
the syntax for your formula is the key
mm-hmm.
towards getting the result that you want.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you, Sir Philip. That is really such a nice tip and a good
Yes, miss.
clarification. We go to question number 4. What is the difference between the true and false range in the VLOOKUP value?
So if you could see there, it's
Mm-hmm.
confusing for the true and false range in the VLOOKUP. So
Mm-hmm.
when I say confusing, because when we say true, it
Mm-hmm.
means approximate or not that exact match. And then when we say false, it means for the exact match. So
Yes.
it's a bit confusing because when we say true, that's
Mm-hmm.
probably for the exact match, and then false for the approximate match. But if
Mm-hmm.
we are using this function for the Excel, which is the VLOOKUP, so
Mm-hmm.
it's different, or
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
same. So true is for approximate match, and then
Mm-hmm.
false is for the exact match. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's the difference between the
The
two.
result that it will yield is actually the opposite. So
The
if you
opposite will be
command
shared.
false, it will give you the true value. But
Yes,
if it
miss.
is true, just
Approximate match for that
approximate
value.
match.
Yes, miss.
Hmm. Interesting. Thank you, Sir Philip. So we will be very careful with that, all right? For
Yes, miss.
false, it will be like the accurate match. Now we go to our number 5 question. And oh, this is from a teacher. Do I need to have the latest version of Microsoft Excel in order to use the VLOOKUP functionality?
For the version of Microsoft Excel, it doesn't matter what version that you are
Mm-hmm.
using, as long as you are using the 2003 app
Mm-hmm.
version. So if
Mm-hmm.
you've installed a Microsoft Office or Microsoft
Mm-hmm.
Excel 2003 and up, so you could
Mm-hmm.
use this VLOOKUP function in your
Okay.
devices, such as
Mm-hmm.
computers, laptops, or
Mm-hmm.
your probably mobile phones. You could also use this VLOOKUP function on your Excel. So it's not that it's not complicated if you are using any versions of Microsoft Excel, because I think
Mm-hmm.
most of us are using the 2003 version of
Yes.
Microsoft
Yes.
Office
Yeah.
application.
But if they are using 2003 and below, do you recommend that they update their Microsoft Excel?
Um, I think if you're using 2003 and below, so I recommend to you to uninstall that one and to install a latest version, because
Mm.
I don't know if there's a 2003 below installed in your computer. So I think most of us have a latest version.
Yes. There you go, Sir Philip. Thank you for clarifying that up for our audience. And I guess that was the last question posted through our open online forum form. Thank you very much to our audience for sending their questions and their queries. Before we end this segment, do you have any last message or tips that you would like to share?
So again, thank you everyone for
Mm-hmm.
attending this webinar.
Mm-hmm.
So we have other webinars for the future. So
Yeah.
stay tuned and please be
Mhm.
updated with the NOLITC Facebook page to
Mhm.
avail those free webinars. So again, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Sir Philip. Let us give Sir Philip a virtual round of applause for sharing his expert tips and advices about how to use Microsoft Excel Advanced. And also, we would like to say thank you to NOLITC Tech4ED Center for bringing to us informative and very useful webinars such as this one. In order to get your digital certificate, please do not forget to accomplish the evaluation form through the link provided in the description bar, and it is also being posted. The QR code is posted in your screen right now. So kindly grab your phone, scan the QR code, all right, and or you can go to the description part of our post and you can find the link to our online evaluation. Do this right now, please, or before or right after the webinar ends. Your email address should be typed incorrectly so that the email won't bounce back. The evaluation site will be open only until 6 o'clock this evening. Also, we would like to remind you, if you have not done the online attendance right yet, please do it right now because it is very important for you to be able to get your digital certificate. Okay, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for following us through this another insightful topic. This concludes our NOLITC Tech4ED Webinar 6 entitled Advanced Microsoft Excel Vlookup. Don't miss out our next webinar next week, which is about Visual Graphic Design 10. See you using the same platform that you are currently using. You should be able to receive a link through your emails for the reminders of our webinars. So that's it, everyone. Stay safe, please, and take care. Knowledge inspire, knowledge cares, avance negrense.